flesh, hearts one more. One shot, one chance, stand and fight. The battle lines are drawn tonight. No retreat, no compromise. Legends fall, but heroes rise. We are unyielding, never breaking. Through the pain, through the aching. Stand tall, fist high, heart still beating. We won't stop, we are unyielding. Chasing by, but we break free. Destiny's written in history. Blood on the canvas, war in the ring. Only the strong take everything. We're unyielding. One shot, one chance, stand and fight. The battle lines are drawn tonight. No retreat, no compromise. Legends fall, but heroes rise. We are unyielding, never breaking. Through the pain, through the aching. Stand tall, fist high, heart still beating. We won't stop, we are unyielding. We are unyielding. Chains may bind, but we break free. Destiny's written in history. Blood on the canvas, war in the ring. Only the strong take everything. We are unyielding, never breaking. Through the pain, through the aching. Stand tall, fist high, heart still beating. We won't stop, we are unyielding. We are unyielding. We are unyielding. Feel the thunder, hear the sound. A warrior's heart won't hit the ground. Step aside, cross the line. This is the moment to or die. We will die. We are unyielding, never breaking. Through the pain, through the aching. Stand tall, fist high, heart still beating. We won't stop, we are unyielding. One by one they'll try to take it. One by one we'll rise and break it. Through the storm, through the bleeding, we remain unyielding. Stepping out the ring and onto the mic. Golden locks, throwing chains on tight. I'll rule the airwaves, I own the night. Crank up the volume, feel the heat down. Turn up the dial, let me preach. Running this town with a steel cake smile. When the bell rings, I do it with style. I'm the Lord of Saturday night. One hand thunder, taking the mic. Bodies tell the truth, no fear, no fight. Bow down, cause I rule tonight. I'm the Lord of Saturday night. Blonde hair, thunder, taking the mic. Bodies tell the truth, no fear, no fright. Bow down, cause I rule tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unyielding, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no, stop that. Thank you. Nope, that's the wrong one. I am your host, Lord Amadeus, the president and owner of RAWF. I am joined tonight by the lovely.
Shadows breathe. There's a name you won't ever speak. Molly Malone, she walked alone. Her footsteps echo cold as stone. They said she cursed the midnight air with a heart too broken to repair. A wrong soul left in the dust. Now they whisper that's what she gets for trust. She was the ghost they couldn't save. A restless heart, a silent grave. Every word was a fleeting dream. Every prayer twisted scream.
Ladies and gentlemen, she is the first class lass, Maeve O'Hare. Good evening, Maeve.
Good evening, boss man. awful quiet in here.
It is awful. It is
Awful
quiet in here.
gloomy in here too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there we go. The board's a little slow
I
tonight.
I I reckon Vacant's selling all those tacos he promised because he ain't here.
Yeah, it must be. I don't
I
know
didn't
where.
I didn't reckon that tacos would be quite so popular here in Nolens, but apparently they are because there was a queue stretched halfway around the arena when I walked in at the trucks.
Well, maybe he's just. It is possible he got busy, which is all right. He's making money doing his thing, and
I mean, now don't get me wrong, they're delicious tacos. I had several myself before I came in. Uh, I didn't know they were so popular here.
I am not displeased that you were sitting in for El Vacant tonight. It is a wonderful
Well,
surprise and glad to have you.
I were honored to be asked. Hello, DW. I hope you're keeping well out there.
And I believe Seabell is also out in the chat. Hello, Sai.
Well,
Uh,
it's always nice to see Sibel, even if she does have poor taste in friends.
well,
Myself excluded, of course.
that is a good point, and we'll talk more about the elevated society here
Oh, do
as
we
the
have to?
a little bit,
All
just a
right.
little bit. It won't
All
be the
right,
huge
fine,
focus.
fine,
But
fine.
I've gotten Elvacan's take on what he thinks, who he thinks are going to win tonight in the big matches. So getting a different perspective is a good thing. We've got some huge matchups tonight. Let's talk about them. First of all, this thing between Chaz and Mark Caliber. Mark Caliber starting this little group called the Murder. He tried to recruit Chaz when Chaz politely refused. Uh, Mark and other members of the Murder attacked Chaz from behind, thus the steel cage. They were friends and tag team partners for quite a while. Maeve, what do you make of this whole situation between Mark Caliber and Chaz?
With friends like that, who needs enemies?
I
I
mean,
said it last night and I'll say it again. An invitation is not a summons. You ask someone to do something, they say no politely, you move on. No means no. Mark Caliber's a grown man, he's old enough to know that. Uh, and honestly, I can't say as a blame Chaz. I mean, look at this crew that Mark's got assembled. I mean, I can't blame him for wanting Chaz because, it's nice in a group to have two brain cells to rub together. And Chaz is a fine addition to any group. I just I don't know where Mark thinks this is going to go. Like, does he think he's going to beat the snot out of Chaz, and then Chaz is suddenly going to be like, "Yes, let me be part of your little murder party"? It don't make sense to me, boss man.
plus Chaz has been a member of Anarchy for at least a couple of years now. At
I
this
like
point,
I were heartbroken when Chaz chose to stay with Anarchy instead of joining up with Black Irish when I offered the invitation. But I certainly didn't go around trying to thrash him when he said no.
good point. Good point. However, I mean, it wouldn't have been the first time Anarchy has lost a popular member. In just
I mean,
recent,
one of them's sitting out in the green room right now.
yeah, there's that
And
one, and then of course Chris Cage as well. So it's oh, of course we also have a third person in the third in the studio tonight. Let's not forget.
Studio Cat. Whoa! Studio Cat. Studio Cat.
Oh, the good old studio cat.
I am curious which hem Diesel Warrior's talking about here. You talking about Mark Caliber, Chaz, Chris Cage, all of the above, Boss Man, like
Uh, 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 and then, anyways,
Chaz.
Chaz. Well, I can understand that right now. She and Chaz are both, high up there in the rankings, and it's a when she can get a victory over him, it certainly helps her out. But let's talk more about tonight. We got that one. We have Ken Costa and Paragon of Greatness in a non-title bout. Uh, Ken's had some issues with Paragon. He's had some
Ken's had
issues.
some issues with everyone lately.
He's cranky. He's definitely been.
Apparently, it's because you're meanies.
And we're me. I mean, I guess I've been accused of being worse. So, but I try not to be mean to anybody in
Well,
RAWF.
of course, you've been accused of being worse. You're divorced.
Fair enough. Champions Choice Championship. Aaron McFadden defending it against Mystic Maniac, someone I know you're one of your dear closest personal friends, Mystic Maniac. Well, we won't delve into that too much, but McFadden choosing Maniac to defend the Champion's Choice, and the only thing Maniac can do are double axe handles and closed fist punches. So he's pretty restricted in that respect. I am pretty sure.
I mean, it's a bold move for Aaron McFadden to come out there and say he wants Misty to fist him, but
Oh wow!
I'm sorry, were that out loud?
That was out loud, and
that was an inside thought, Maeve. Be with
uh,
yourself.
but yeah, that was it. I mean, when you're Champion's Choice champion, you want to choose people that you know and give them that step. So this is not a surprise, not a shock, and Aaron, I don't think Ice Cold is going to leave New Orleans tonight without the Champion's Choice championship.
If Aaron McFadden manages to lose the belt under these circumstances, I think you should tear up his contract. Make him walk home.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I do. I mean, I doubt very seriously that anything happens there. McFadden's going to be the Champion's Choice champion. Hatfield and McCoy championship being competed by two members of the Elevated Society. Chris Cage, who won the Hatfield McCoy event for like the third consecutive time, chose his opponent. He chose a fellow member of the society, and Blake Bradley. Not a shock here. The question is, are they going to change hands with the title, or is Blake just in there to ensure that Chris Cage remains Hatfield McCoy champion?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think it signifies much which one of them holds on to that belt, because the same hand is pulling every single one of them strings. I think it'll be a good match if they're smart. Hopefully they're not going to go out there and finger poke of death each other. But I am slightly disappointed in that I were hoping that we'd get to see a real fight for that belt, because you've been doing a lot of good work with that division since you took it over.
Well, hopefully there will be a fight for it, but we will see. It is what it is, and when you have so many factions, especially one as competitive as the Elevated Society in RAWF, you're going to have nights like this where you have matches, two people facing each other from the same group. Speaking of the Elevated Society, and C-Bell will be defending the Arcana Class Championship tonight against Vex. This one is not Elevated versus Elevated.
It most emphatically is not.
There's no way. No way in hell. And it's been a while since we've seen Vex with some RAWF gold. She's kind of just competed sporadically, mostly in tags and events. So how important you think it is to Vex to add the Arcana Class trophy title to her trophy case?
I mean, there's a couple of different ways to approach that question. First of all, it's a belt she ain't held before, and she does like to collect new titles. But I think even more important to Vexy is the fact that she's going to be able to try and take something away from the Elevated Society, and she's got no more love for them than I do. So I think she's going to be doubly motivated, and not to address the elephant in the room too directly. But in the past, we have seen that C-Bell does tend to get a little distracted when there's another pretty lady in the ring with her. So I think the smart money's on Vexy.
Interesting choice. I'm not disagreeing with that at all, because Vex is a two-time RAWF World Heavyweight Champion, the only female to have that accolade. She's won many titles in RAWF.
If you deny it, I'll call you a liar to your face, Sabelle. I've met you. I've been in the ring with you. I know how you are.
I cannot disagree with your assessment of the situation. Powerball
Pussycat,
champ.
I'm right.
Powerball Championship. Nightcrawler defends against Tigress. Tigress is a former Powerball champion. Nightcrawler. I mean, this one to me is even Steven. It could go either way. What are your thoughts?
I think a redhead's going to win that belt. And I'm always in favor of seeing redheads do well.
All
No,
right.
I think it's going to be close, and I think though I would have to give the edge slightly to Tigress only because Nightcrawler has another big match that he's got to contend with, and if he's smart, that's the one he's going to focus his efforts on.
All right. Another match we should touch on briefly here, since you're here. You are taking on Destroyer in a rankings match. But it's a pretty important rankings match, I would think. As of last night, she was in the top 10, Destroyer, and
I
you
were
weren't.
19th.
So I mean, not too. That's not too. That's not far. I think she was 8th or 9th. I can't remember. I don't have it up in front of me right now.
That sounds about right. I think
Yeah.
8 or 9. She was in the top 10, I know for sure. But it weren't the top 5. So,
But this match is pretty important because you at 19, you may or may not be looking at a superstars title match.
but if I can boost myself up a few, I could get a bigger match.
You could get into you could definitely get into bigger match. I mean, I can't say whether that's true or not because it all depends, of course, as you know.
Obviously, it depends on what everyone else above me and below me is doing as well.
Right, and what titles they hold, because certain title holders do not get contenders matches, and
As well, I know I dealt with that for the better part of 3 years straight.
Yeah, yes, you did, and so that is. We will find out, but this is a pretty important match for both of you.
Speaking of the rankings and such, if everything stayed, like say the rankings that Vacant read last night were the final rankings, I know they ain't. Before anyone starts getting upset, but if I stayed at 19th, how far away would my Superstars title match be? Because I ain't had a shot at that in quite a while.
You know, I can't tell you at this point. I would think because you're in the upper 20s that it would be a quick one for like in the next 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But it wouldn't be next week for sure because we already have that one set. But yeah, that one's hard to call. It all depends on what the people above you do, because you know Billy Gunn's at 18. He's the Midnight Hobo champion. He retains that. He's not getting a contenders match because he's not getting into the top 2, and so on. You know, it all depends.
Just something to keep in mind. That's all.
Yep, absolutely. I am never against discussing such things, as D.W. Wells knows. Anyways, next up, the tag team titles on the line. Strangleheart and Rick Nelson defending against Paragon of Greatness and Knox Boogie, the Hall of Fame tag team known as Dungeons and Dragons. And you know, D&D have been trying to get these belts back for several years now.
It's true.
And they've had multiple opportunities. It's not like they've never had a tag title shot in the last 6 years. They've had multiple. I would say probably at least 6 or 7 times in the last 6 or 7 years.
No, there's several times I remember them being in the top of the rankings for tag teams, even just in the last year or so. So normally this is where I would say, well, of course you got to give the nod to D&D. They're Hall of Famers, and it's Paragon and Knox, and they've done this before. But I were talking to somebody who's much better with numbers than myself, and I were reminded that in pay-per-views where Morcorcra has multiple title matches, he has a tendency not to win any of them. And this makes his, I believe, 4th important match of the night.
Just third. He's defending the world title. He's in the tag team title match, and he's facing Ken Costa.
So it's not as bad. For some reason, I was thinking he had a 4th match in there somewhere. But I mean, that's still a lot on his plate. And you know, while Knox is an excellent wrestler, and they've been tag teaming together since Continental Drift began, you can't win a tag title match on your own. You can get close. We've seen folk get close. Um, but in RAWF, you gotta have both people because no one gets into the RAWF Tag Championship by accident. And given that More Corcoras got to deal with, defending his title, which, he hadn't held in forever. I'm pretty sure he ain't held it since I've been in the company. Now I'm going to hear from him that I'm a jinx or something. Uh, but, he's finally got that world title back. That's going to be top of his mind. And I know it's important to him not to just ignore the Ken costume match and act like it don't matter. So he's going to be paying close attention to that. He's got his attention split in a lot of different ways. Whereas Strangleheart and Rick Nelson, this is what they're at the pay-per-view to do. So I feel like they've got the advantage. And it seems strange to say any team has an advantage over Dungeons and Dragons, but there you have it.
And plus, I feel like Strangleheart and Rick Nelson have that apex attitude, that sword and scimitars attitude, where they want to hold on to those belts as long as they possibly can. They're proud of being tag team champions and make no and are not quiet about it. If you know what I'm
Reigns is
saying,
not quiet about anything.
this is true, but especially when he's holding a belt, and Rick Nelson is the same way. So yeah, I have to lean toward the champion this year.
I
I
think
think
it's going to be an and still.
yeah, I'm
I
nothing
think it'll
against
be a good
D&D.
match, but I think it'll be an and still.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't disagree. Tigers defends the multimedia championship against Extreme Enigma, and so we know Enigma's record on pay-per-view and title matches is not the greatest. However, uh, this is one they particularly uh, really want. They've been wanting that multimedia championship for quite a while. What say you here?
That's the funny thing about Enigmas. The more they want something, the less likely they seem to get it. I know Enigma has been coveting that belt for forever and a day. And I know that they've had all these grand plans of all the things that they're going to do with it once they get hold of it. But that's exactly the point where it's most dangerous because the more you want something, the more you're going to think about it, and the more you're going to end up overthinking and getting in your own way. And in my experience, Enigma is better off in situations where they are letting their instincts guide them instead of their desires. Because I've noticed that when they get up and they talk and they make a big to do about something, inevitably, especially in RWF pay per views, it seems to blow up in their face. We saw it with English, we saw it with myself. We've seen it over and over again, and I think we're going to see it again tonight. I think we're going to have another and still, and then we're going to have to deal with a very whiny, emo Enigma complaining about how nothing ever goes their way at pay per view.
God, I almost just want Enigma to win just so we don't have to deal with that.
I mean, either way, we're going to have to deal with a lot more Enigma chit chat because if they do become the multimedia champion, then they've got all these things that they've promised they're going to do with it. And for one, I would like to see it just because I've been saying for ages, I would love to see a multimedia champion that actually does something multimedia with it. I want my multimedia champion to get out there and cut promos and do videos and launch their own game or whatever it is that Enigma's planning. I would purely love to see it. I just don't think we're gonna.
We find out tonight here at Unyielding in New Orleans. Starshot to defend the Triple Crown Championship against Sassy Applebee's and Seabell. This one's going to get interesting. I have a. Starshot's kind of gotten a little on the quiet side, not making as much noise since winning the Triple Crown Championship. I'm not sure where his head is at. Sassy, we all know, has always got her head on straight, and well, I'm not gonna comment on whether I think Cy does. Where do you stand on who you think will be Triple Crown champion when the night is done?
I would purely love to see either of the ladies take it, but the tricky thing about Triple Crown is that the champion always has the advantage because they just have to not lose, whereas the other two have to win. So if I'm Seabell and Sassy, I am making an alliance with my other female competitor to take out Starshot first, and then may the best last win. And a lot of times in Triple Crown, that's what we've seen, is that there's some sort of unspoken third person's out first, and then it's everyone for themselves. And I think that's the way that you handle it. So, Seabell, free advice is seldom cheap. Just consider it.
It's going to be a very interesting Triple Crown title match. I feel like one of the women will walk out of it. I lean towards Sassy. No offense, C. Just because I I think she wants it more. We will
Well, she
see.
also don't have another title match to worry about, if I'm not mistaken, not till next week.
That's true. That's true. The Immortal Griffith to defend the Fubar City Championship against Kenny Boy Ken Costa. This one's gonna this one. I mean, we talked about Ken earlier. This would be the biggest upset and the biggest victory of Ken Costa's career if he can pull this off and win that Fubar City title. But I just don't see it happening. I mean, no offense, Ken. Call me a meanie. Call me whatever you want to call me.
Don't
The
forget you got
truth
to
is,
laugh.
the truth is, you are the underdog here, and you're going to have to win it to prove me wrong. Your thoughts, Maeve?
The truth is that there are few enough people in this industry, not to mention this company, this industry. I could count on one hand and have fingers left over the number of folks I don't consider an underdog when they're facing English. And sad to say, Kenny Boy Ken Costa is not on that list anywhere. He can call me a meanie. I've been called worse by better. And I will laugh when English goes out there and soundly trounces him, because that's what's going to happen.
I mean, Ken's got a huge. Ken's got an impossible situation tonight. He's got a match with the Paragon of Greatness and the Immortal Griffith. I mean, only one of them.
It's one of the classic blunders of all time. That's up there with starting a land war in Asia.
Yeah.
You don't start a land war in Asia. You don't pull on Superman's cape, and you don't challenge more Corker when you've already got a match against English.
But, well, to be fair, at the time he challenged Paragon, he thought Chaz was going to be his opponent. He thought Chaz was going to be Fubar City champion.
Facing more Corker, I can say from experience, is enough work for any one night. You don't need to go bringing that on yourself when you've already got a title match. I don't care if your title match is against Joe the janitor. You don't need to give yourself the added effort of facing more Corcoran.
True enough. But if Ken Costa were to walk out tonight with victories over both, it would make him. I mean, totally make him.
You know what? I am so confident that that's not going to happen that I will say right here, right now, live on radio, if Ken Costa wins the Fubar City title away from English, I will pay him 1 million coins.
Whoa. Okay.
It's been a while since I've made one of my bets on air.
Oh, wowzers. Well, if Ken's listening to this, he's gonna want to
1 million coins. All you got to do is, beat English.
All right. Wow, Ken Costa. Now Ken's got that little extra motivation tonight. If when he hears this, I'm sure that will be.
And I will go ahead and I will make a scene after we get off the radio to make sure that Ken is aware that he's got his little carrot dangling on a stick now.
Billy Gunn to defend the Midnight Hobo Championship against Nightcrawler. Billy's one of those ones who's been starting to come into his own. There for a while, he was, dog paddling, but now he's seeming to swim a little faster. Where are you on Billy Gunn versus Nightcrawler for that Midnight Hobo Championship?
Well, as I'm sure you remember, we're hoping that it was going to be myself and not Nightcrawler facing him. But either way, I would like to see the belt come off of Billy. Simply because I just don't think... I don't like seeing my belt on Billy Gunn. I don't particularly care for the thought of seeing it on Nightcrawler either. I do still have a proprietary interest in where that belt goes. But I think that Nightcrawler is the better competitor out of the two. And I just hope that he does take me advice from earlier and focus on the one that matters. Yeah, the Powerball has a bigger payout, but the Midnight Hobo has a stronger legacy to it. And so, given the choice between the two, my attention would be focused on the Midnight Hobo title.
I will be surprised if we say and still. I will be. This is Billy's first major pay-per-view title defense. He won the title at Jingle Hell Rock. So I want to see what he looks like as a champion, and he does not have an easy opponent in his first defense. There's no doubt about that. DW Diesel Warrior out in the chat, the estrogen champion, defending against Miss Beautifatal. Her handpicked by DW after DW won the Biatch of the month, and I'm curious because we talked about it last night. Did she pick Miss B because she thought it was an easy opponent, or did she pick Miss B because she thought she was a worthy opponent who hadn't had many opportunities in RAWF and maybe deserved an opportunity because she's been in RAWF for so long? What are your thoughts on the matter?
I think that if Miss B wanted a shot at the estrogen title, she should have tried harder in the tournament. I'm not saying that I don't think she's a worthy competitor. I've had many good matches against her myself. But I also think that DW would not be the successful estrogen champion that she is if she went out and took silly risks and picked the person she thought was the toughest. I think she was smart to pick Miss B. I think that she's got the advantage over Miss B, not only as the champion and someone who's held that belt multiple times in this company, but also just as someone who has overall been more successful in RAWF than Miss B has. Again, I like Miss B. I don't wish any harm on her. But I don't think that DW picked her because she thought it were going to be a tough fight. I think DW picked her because she thought that this was a good way to continue setting records in RAWF as an estrogen champion. And I can't be mad at that because that's the whole point of trying to win the tourney when you're the champion, is so you get to make those decisions.
Yeah, because there have been many champions who have won, the estrogen champions who have won the Biatch of the Month, picked somebody and gotten a lot of flack for it. But the truth is, you earned the right to do so, and there should be no one should have an issue with it, no matter who they choose. So
No, again, if you wanted to have something to say about who is going into that title match, you should have worked harder.
Yep, exactly.
DW earned that prize, and I'm glad to see her taking advantage of it as she should.
Speaking of champions winning tournaments to name their own opponents, the Immortal Griffith, of course, the arsehole of the month as the men's champion, chose his opponent. And he did so a different way. He chose Hotshot Chaz because Chaz gave him an opportunity at the Fubar C Championship a few weeks ago, the opportunity to take it from him. And now he's giving Chaz an opportunity to take away that men's championship. But history shows that, I don't know this, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. Griff with the men's championship at Unyielding is almost a foregone conclusion. Griff walking out with it at Unyielding is almost a foregone conclusion if you go by history. What are your thoughts on Chaz versus English?
I think that it were very sporting of English to choose Chaz. I think that as a man of honor, he felt that he owed Chaz that opportunity because Chaz was game enough to give him a title chance that he hadn't earned. And so he's returning that favor. But I also don't think that English went into this thinking that he was going to have a particularly rough night of work. This is not to slag off on Chaz. Obviously, Chaz has taken a belt from me in the not too distant past. Chaz has had a lot of opportunities. He's got a lot of skill. But in some ways, he's kind of like Enigma in that he gets into his own head. He starts getting all excited about these opportunities. He starts building these castles in the air, and he doesn't have the foundation set. So if I'm Chaz, I go into that match excited for my opportunity, but wary. Because not only are you facing possibly the greatest wrestler in our industry, but someone who has a record with that belt, with this pay-per-view, and who is just honestly a terrible person to lose to. Like, he don't like losing. He doesn't do it often enough to be good at it. And so he tends to get cranky when he loses. And then I have to deal with it. And so I would take it as a kindness if people would not make me have to deal with English's bad temper, because then he comes and sulks and I have to put up with it.
All right. Well, we shall see. That should be a good match. National championship, simply the best, defending against Hobo Ezekiel. Pros and cons for STB. The pro is Hobo Ezekiel has been very distracted by other things, namely things like Destroyer going after Mama Moose and other things as well. But STB certainly has an advantage over a distracted Hobo Ezekiel. Plus, he wants to keep that title in the hands of the Elevated Society. Cons, he has a main event title match to worry about at the same time. What are your thoughts on STB versus Hobo Ezekiel?
I think that it is going to be interesting to see which one of them can keep focused long enough to win that match. Because Hobo's going to be looking over his shoulder. He's probably going to have that damn moose at ringside at this point. But she'll fit in well with all of the other smelly, unwashed folks from the Elevated Society who are probably also going to be at ringside. I think that Hobo has the advantage unless Destroyer decides to pay a visit to the ring. Because STB does have a big purple roadblock up ahead, regardless of how his match against Hobo turns out. So I think it's going to be close. I think Hobo has a slight advantage. But I really think that match is going to end up being a comedy of errors just because of how much both of them have going on outside of the match itself.
You could be right. It could definitely be the comedy act of the evening, but that's always a decent percentage when Hobo's involved, anyways. No matter what kind of match he's in,
some sort of ridiculous thing is going to happen one way or another.
Yeah, most definitely. Deez defends the Platinum Dragon Championship against Killa Neptune, a return match from Jingle Hell Rock where Deez beat Killa Neptune for the Platinum Dragon Championship, giving Killa an opportunity to come back and try to get it back for the, I said it last night, I want to say 6th time?
That's an absurd number of times.
It's no more absurd than someone winning the World Heavyweight Championship 10 times.
Well, that's also absurd. Some of us haven't even held it once, but go on and win it 10 times. Sure, why not?
Right? At any rate, yes, Killa could become the first 6th-time Platinum Dragon Champion. Who do you think walks out as the heart and soul of RAWF and takes it to Immortal?
See, I'm of two minds. It really depends on what Killa thinks is going to be the funniest thing to do. Because that's usually how he decides how to do anything, is as best I can gather. Obviously, if you're in this industry and you're in this company, the goal is to be in a title match at Immortal one way or another. But being in a title match at Immortal is an awful lot of work, and it depends on whether Killa decides that it's worth the effort. Because there are times, at least the way I've looked at it, where you can see that Killa could be doing more, and it just feels like too much work for him. So if Killa decides that that's something that he thinks would be entertaining and enjoyable, I think he's going to take the belt back and go to Immortal as the Platinum Dragon Champion. But if he decides that he wants to have an easy trip to Vegas, I don't think he's going to put in all that much effort against Deez. So it really depends on what version of Killa Deez gets faced off with. Deez is always Deez. He's consistent. He's Mr. Pay-Per-View for a reason. It really is going to depend on which version of Killa shows up in that match tonight.
Out of the previous 9 unyieldings, the Platinum Dragon Championship has only changed hands twice, and it was defended all 9 times. The last time it changed hands was in 2021 when Dees won it from Lady Vex. So, uh, just an interesting tidbit there. All right, and finally, it was.
He's gonna be mad he missed all these statistics.
Well, I know, right? I'm gonna load it up with statistics just so you can. Anyways, World Heavyweight Championship on the line. The Paragon of Greatness, simply the best. These two, as far as rankings, points wise, over the last couple of years, have been the top two. But it's the first time I believe they've matched up. Maybe might be the second time, but at any rate, uh, the two of them go head to head for the World Heavyweight Championship. We've heard all the talking from Paragon over the last couple of weeks. We know what STB is all about. Getting a lot of encouragement from his Elevated Society brethren, Blake Bradley, who walks out as the World Heavyweight Championship tonight at Maeve.
Of all the matches, I think this is honestly the hardest to call. Just because this is two of the most consistent performers in this company. There's a reason that they're always up in the top two. They're both excellent workers. They're both very capable of winning this match. They're both very capable of being world champions. They've both held that belt before. They know what it means. The only advantage that I see that isn't outweighed by someone else's advantage is that I think Immortal Season means more to Corkora than probably anyone in this company, including yourself. And I think that that's what's going to see him through against STB. Because otherwise, I feel like it's a very even fight. The Elevated Society is going to stick their noses in where they're not wanted. But Corkora has folks on his side as well. So I think that that's going to all even out. Everything's going to come out on the wash, but I think that just the devotion that Corkora has to Immortal Season gives him like the teeny tiniest sliver of advantage that can't be counteracted. So I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be an excellent main event match for the show. But I do think we're going to hear the words "and still."
Well, and if we do, I can almost guarantee you that either we will have a rematch at Immortal or another Elevated Society member will get that opportunity. One of the two. Just because what I'm looking at here, it's almost undoubtedly going to be STB or Blake Bradley in the world title contender match. If Paragon were to lose the world title to STB, it would probably be him and Blake in the world title contender match. If STB loses, it'll be him and Blake. So it's going to be a very interesting.
So what you're saying is no one can dislodge Blake from third at this
point. No. I'll tell you this, and I don't usually spoil rankings like this that often, but so. Is the rankings that I read last night, they were 10 out of 14, right?
It is true.
10 out of 14 matches had been counted. So, Blake Bradley was in third, Killa Neptune in fourth. Correct?
Correct.
Killa is going to have to make up 60 points in those last 4 matches to catch Blake Bradley. And I think you understand the gravity of that situation.
No, I'm not a mathematical whiz. It's not like I went and did my A-levels in maths. It's not like I've got a head for statistics, like some folk around here do. But as the youth would say, I don't think that math is mathin'.
I don't think it's going to hurt. But I say that, and then who knows what will happen? But
anything can happen. It is Immortal Season.
This is true. This is true. All right. So that is our review or our predictions and preview of tonight's Unyielding pay-per-view. So now you wanted to hear about Immortal History, did you not?
I wanted to hear about unyielding and why it means so much to
That's what
me.
I meant. Unyielding. That's what I meant. I meant that. I did. So let's talk about that. Oops. And of course it would jump. There we go. So this is a slideshow. It may jump back and forth on me, but anyways, the very first Unyielding was in 2014, AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas, and it featured a lot of these names you may not be too familiar with. Maybe you are. Let's play. Come on. There it goes. Well, of course you're gonna skip.
There's a lot of names on that list I hadn't seen in a long time, and there's definitely some names that I have never seen in my life.
There we go. This here is the first Immortal. So the very first Immortals, it was featured a woman-on-woman World Heavyweight Championship match, and I don't believe that feat has ever happened since. I cannot recall a time.
I think you're right. I think every time a woman, at least every time a woman's held the belt since I've been in this company, they've always had a male opponent.
I'm pretty sure Vex. I try to think back, and I don't believe Vex ever had to defend against another woman. And yeah, so this may be the one time in RAWF history when it was actually woman on woman for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was 69 Sniper versus Haruki, and Haruki won the world title that night. The defunct Insane Mofo Championship went down. God bless you, Aggie. You had you and your ideas, but Pebs and the Prince of Wales, two names from the Blast from the Past. But as you can see, it was an interesting card. You look over on the right there, the Amadeus Style Challenge, myself versus Aussie B-Man. That all stemmed from the first couple times I played Amadeus Style on the air. B-Man challenged me to a match, and if he won, I would never play that song again. Guess who won?
I was going to say, I'm guessing that you won that match, both times.
Yes, indeed I did.
What on earth is a Girl Scout cookie challenge? Of course, Judgy's involved in that.
This is the kind of stuff you got to remember. This was the first year of RAWF. We were trying everything to get Is
that like a candy cane on a pole match, except it's a box of Girl Scout biscuits?
I vaguely remember the whole thing. So yeah, it was an interesting time, to say the least, starting out. The Triple Crown Championship, look at that. King Outlaw, Realm, and Dr. Payne. Those three were competitors, let me tell you. Rest in peace, Dr. Payne. So then we moved on to... I love how this... Next time
See, that's the problem with asking Judgy anything, Sibel, is that you could get the honest answer, or you could get something that he completely made up off the top of his head. And the truth with Judgy is always so strange that you're never sure which one is which.
2015, we were in the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. You can see I was back in the day, I was kind of cheap because I used the same logo for...
I weren't gonna say anything, but since you brought it up,
yeah, just change the date and place on the thing there. But it was a very interesting night. We had two 8-man battle royals. 8 people picked by Shell Kneebreaker. 8 people picked by myself. I think we had a little mini draft on air of who we thought, and these battle royals, whoever would win. Each one would go on to face each other for the World Heavyweight Championship at Immortal that year. And the winners were King Outlaw in Shell's Battle Royal, and in my Battle Royal, it was Tank Girl. And if I remember correctly, King Outlaw won his second World Heavyweight Championship at Immortal following this pay-per-view. Again, some names you might notice, but a lot you probably don't. This one, the Platinum Dragon Championship TLC match. So many steps in this one, it's impossible to keep track of. I actually wrote that down. In this,
well, of course, there were a bunch of strange steps in there. You had Count Z in it.
Count Z and Jonathan Taylor was no slouch for Stips either. So, and look, this was back when Razor actually had gold, national champion defending against Dire Payne that night. Moving on. So now we're getting into one I've actually put. This is that, of course, as you see, that was all pre-graphics. Where is okay? So moving backwards, this thing's jumping on me. So just
Salic, there's a name I hadn't heard in a hot minute.
yeah. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Oh, all right. Anyways, again, still too cheap to change the logo in the third ever, but. So did it show? Okay, so the main event was Salic versus the Immortal Griffith. Griffith won the championship that night. I don't believe it was his first one. I'm pretty sure.
Back when the Misfits were still around.
Yes, it was back when the Misfits were still around. Let me check on this real quick. What night was that? Was that his? It was his third. That would be the start of his third World Heavyweight title reign.
Saints preserve us.
And then, as you see, I think you can see on the screen right now, the Immortal Griffith was men's champion at this Unyielding.
Of course
he retained the title against Tommy Lightning. Let's see. No, yeah, it just keeps jumping on me. Midnight Hobo Championship, Mithras versus Tank Girl. Those are some of the matches. There's a good one.
Oh, good Lord.
The Cougar versus Money Sue for the Fubar City Championship. And if I am not mistaken, I believe she retained that night.
I bet she beat the snot out of him, too.
I'm gonna double check that because what did I say? Fubar City, right?
Fubar City, yeah.
All right, and we're in what year?
Oh, he always deserves it, Sibel. I'm sure he said something smart.
Probably. Yes, she retained the title against Money Sue that
Good
night.
for her. Oh, so, you got a graphic.
Yeah, I do. Is it still there?
No, it went away. There it is.
All right. Yeah. So the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship that night was Michaela Doom versus Johnny Platinum. Two names we don't hear very often anymore. Platinum Dragon Championship. It was the Immortal Griffith as the champion defending against John Taylor. He retained that night, of course.
Of course he did.
Let's see.
Look at that. Griffith Davian, men's champion again.
Yeah, how about that?
John the Revelator, speaking of names I hadn't heard in a minute.
Right? And Griffith, I want to say Griffith might have lost the title that night. Let me take a look here. This was... No, he did not. All right. I knew John beat him for some titles at some point in their careers, but it was not this night. And...
Oh, Lord.
Yes. Where is it? Oh.
Oh, my.
Stop. Did it back up yet? Come on.
Yeah, because now I was looking at yourself and the threshing machine versus Apex. How'd that work out for you?
We won. We retained the titles that night.
Congratulations! That's a red letter day. Did you write it on the calendar?
I did. Well, it's here in the history, anyways. I can't see anything now. This thing's really kind of screwing up on me. Tell me when you see. Do you see L vacant anywhere?
Not yet.
What do you see right now?
Yourself and Mithras versus Apex. There we are. L vacant versus Judge. Good Lord.
So on this night, it was the TBA championship. This was the night that the TBA championship the Champions Choice Championship was born. Back in the day, we had two vacant titles that Judgment wanted to get his hands on. And we told him, okay, well, you're going to have to fight for him. Well, Vacant stepped in and said, well, since my name's on the title, I should defend it. But Judge ended up beating L Vacant and changing the name of it because he won the right to change the name to whatever do with it. And thus the Champion's Choice Championship was born that evening. So then we move on to 2018, the TD Garden in Boston. That's one of my favorite ones. One of my favorite pay-per-view picks. Just finding that one was pretty cool, I thought.
I can't imagine why that's one of your favorites, Bossman.
I have no idea. The main event was the Paragon of Greatness defending the championship against Uncle Frank. He would retain the title this evening, but he would go on the next month at Immortal to lose the title to Frank in a rematch. So, but still a pretty interesting main event. Let's see. Tell me when to change. There we go. The men's. You're seeing a pattern here.
I'm starting to notice that there's a recurrent trend. Yeah.
Yes, the Immortal Griffith, the men's champion, successfully defeated Sweet Haven Slasher to retain the title that night.
Who on earth are the Aussie Vegemites?
You know what? I have no idea. I do not remember. Is that what you're seeing right now on your screen?
No, now I'm seeing the graphic from the year you were in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to bother going back. I'm going to remember next time I want to do a slideshow like this, make a lot of space because this thing is not working properly. But yes, the next Unyielding was in Bridgestone in Tennessee, and geez, I didn't even put a year on that one. What was that? 2018, 2019, something like that. But main event, Paragon of Greatness defended the World Heavyweight Championship against
Lord.
No, the Teflon Sheik. I wasn't in the match. I had nothing. I'm not even special referee. It was Teflon Sheik, and he obviously beat him. What else do we got here? This one, Immortal Griffith defended the Platinum Dragon Championship against Hobo Ezekiel. Of course, he retained. Here, this one, it's always fun when two members of the OPIG Brotherhood would go at it in a Fubar City Championship match, and that night was no. This was in the.
It's really interesting though to see the one who never talks versus the one who never stops talking.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And these two were pretty close, obviously. And I do miss Uncle Frank, even though we didn't talk much because he didn't talk. Did we have there was a men's championship graphic in there, wasn't there?
There were not.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure. Griff versus Hobo for the Platinum title.
Oh, well, maybe I didn't. Maybe you didn't. All right. Unyielding was back in San Antonio, where the first one was in 2020. Let's take a look here at what we had.
Well, see, there's Vexy defending against a man.
Yeah. Which is not showing me just yet.
Now it's Big Greg versus English for the
men's championship, which I believe Griff won that night.
I believe you're correct.
All right.
Threshing Machine versus Killa.
And that Midnight Hobo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Platinum Dragon.
Oh, Platinum Dragon.
And then an estrogen title match that I'm sure Vacant loved.
So Mithras, it was Vex versus Mithras, right, in the main event?
That's correct.
And Mithras, I believe, beat her that night to become the world champion and went on to Immortal as both the Platinum Dragon and World Heavyweight Champion.
I remember because then we had that three-way match for both belts.
Yep, exactly. And, of course, the Threshing Machine, as you like to call him, walked out as the champion at that night as well.
See, now this is my favorite of your Unyielding graphics.
Oh, you like that one? Yeah, that one is pretty cool. I have to admit.
I like that one a lot.
So let's take a look here, see if it'll show me. Okay, so the main event, Claymore versus Griff for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I believe Claymore actually retained that evening. What was this, 2020, right? Or
2020.
2021? 2021.
Um,
No, I take the
no.
Immortal Griff.
He
That
won
was
it from him at Jingle Hell Rock, and then
Griff got it back at
English got it
Unyielding.
back at Unyielding.
All right. So this was a night. This was his sixth, I think, World Heavyweight Champion, sixth or seventh, one of the two. But yeah, that's. And then two. I mean, these two are both of them are synonymous with the Estrogen Championship. So when they're fighting for it, the two of them, it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Unyielding.
It's really those two, and then DW as like the three names that I think most folks associate with that title.
Well, there's Davila too. Davila's right up there. So, uh, yeah, those four definitely. If they were Mount Rushmore of estrogen, they would, that just sounds wrong, but it's funny, isn't it? Okay, anyways, national championship, Paragon of Greatness, Luke Cage,
Speaking of
and
folks I hadn't seen in
then
millennia.
surprise, surprise, the Immortal Griffith as men's champion defended the title that night against Wolfie.
The real surprise is I forgot Wolfie were ever in this company.
Right?
Oh, hey, look at that.
And then look at there, you in the middle of a pretty historic Midnight Hobo title run against a man that it's kind of like a mini rivalry when you think about it. Hot Shot Chaz, those the two of you that night in Unyielding was not bad, and of course you retained the title that night. It you had a really good run with the Midnight Oval Championship. There's no doubt about
Not
that.
as good as some folks, but pretty good. I can't help but be pleased with it.
Well, I mean, you had a 308-day reign with it and a 280-day reign with it. That's that. I mean,
Well, yeah, but how we're going up against 477 and 938.
right. And then the final Unyielding before tonight was in 2022 at the FTX Arena in Miami. And that was our main event that evening. STB defending the heavyweight championship against the Immortal Griffith. And guess who? Let's see. No. Well, Unyielding. Yes, Griffith won that night. Griffith made it his eighth title reign, defeating STB for the championship that evening. Also, tell me when it changes. Okay, national championship: Chris Cage versus Luke Cage.
I remember the Battle of the Cages.
The Battle of the Cages that night, and then
one of these things is not like the other.
Whoops! What was the last one? It went to the
Triple Crown: English versus Jobu versus Paragon, or no, Killa.
Just some of the best matches we've had in Unyielding over the years, ladies and gentlemen. And now it is 2025. Unyielding returns, and yes, Maeve, Unyielding was always special to me because until we decided to only run one pay-per-view before Immortal, Unyielding was the Royal Rumble of RAW. It's the one you think of before that starts the journey to WrestleMania and WWE. This pay-per-view is the one that starts the journey to Immortal in RAWF. And a lot of history here, and I'm glad we brought it back. What are your thoughts on Unyielding over the years?
I mean, I like it. I were sad to see it go. I like your idea of alternating it with Love Hurts and switching things up to keep it interesting. So I'm excited to see it back, and I'm excited to be here in Nolens. It's always a fun time down here.
Night, DW.
Good night, DW.
But come back and listen to the rest of the show because there is one thing. We do have one some other stuff to discuss here before we call it a night, Maeve.
Do we
Uh,
now?
yes, we do. Because while unyielding, maybe it may be that means we start the journey to what?
Oh, that would be immortal.
We'll be right back.
The lights up, the stakes are high. Welcome to the game where legends die. No second chances, no rewinds. Roll the dice or fall behind. The cards are dealt, the table set. Bet it all, no regrets. You play for glory, fight for fame. One wrong move, lose the game. Welcome to Casino Royale, where kings will rise and fools will fall. Take your shots, risk it all. The one walks out standing tall. Welcome to Casino Royale, where the brave take the pot, the weak go down. No escape, no way out. Only the strong survive this town. Bright lights, the crowd's on fire. One more hit, one step higher. The jackpot's waiting, make your play. Go all in or fade away. The wheel spinning, time runs low. One last chance, just take the throw. No mercy here, no place to hide. You ain't a winner, now say goodbye. Welcome to Casino Royale, where kings will rise and fools will fall. Take your shots, risk it all. The one walks out standing tall. Welcome to Casino Royale, where the brave take the pot, the weak go down. No escape, no way out. Only the strong survive this town. One by one they hit the floor. The aces wild can take no more. Last man standing, raise the goal. Champion's fate is bought and sold. Welcome to Casino Royale, where the bold take the crown or lose it all. Face your fate, heed the call. Tonight the house will watch you fall. Ain't no luck, just do or die. Vegas lights, bodies collide. Who's the last one left alive?
Ladies and gentlemen, Immortal 12 comes to you live from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada on April 6th. Just a month and a half away, Maeve. It's going to be spectacular. I'm looking forward to it. What are your initial thoughts?
Oh, I like the music. I like the graphics. And I know that you're always excited to head back to Vegas because that's your home away from home.
Indeed. Indeed, this is true. I've spent a lot of time in Vegas, and someone's watching from the rafters. Did you see who? Never mind. Anyways,
I mean, I know who it usually is, but it don't quite look like her.
no, it doesn't. At any rate, but yes, I love me some Vegas. It is definitely next to Fubar City in Cleveland. It is my home away from home. But I'm thinking we're gonna do some extra special things for Immortal 12. But of course, it's famous for two important things. First of all, the announcement of this year's class of the RAWF Hall of Fame always happens at Immortal 12. You looking forward to that?
I'm always looking forward to the Hall of Fame announcements.
Hmm. Me too. Me too. This is always the fun time of year, and then of course the Xanther Memorial Tournament will be starting that night. And for all of these you wondering, sometime I'm thinking this week I'm going to have to start the donation scene.
true.
for what's that?
I said that's true. It's about time to start collecting funds and advertising and all that.
It'll either be this week or next week. I'm gonna look at the schedule and see for sure. Because what we've with on the 6th, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks until Immortal. So if I don't do it this week, next week for sure. But yeah,
Well,
yep, yep, yep.
it gives you precisely 7 weeks from today. So it just
Mm.
depends on how long you want to collect money.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I could probably go 3 and 3, so we'll see. I will discuss it with I will discuss it with my staff. So we shall see what happens there. But yes, Immortal 12 is on the horizon, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas Immortal 12 Casino Royale. Place your bets. We will see what happens. Who knows? We might have a couple other surprises in store for you at Immortal 12. Uh, at any rate.
I just realized, boss man.
Hmm?
I were trying to figure out why that name sounded familiar. That's where your football team plays, ain't it?
You'd be right. Yes, that is where my Raiders play. That is. It is indeed where my Raiders play. Which is kind of ironic because they didn't play there when I was actually there, living and trying to make a living as a doped up drummer. But yeah, it is.
And I'll have a moment of silence for industrial vomit.
I am thinking about getting back in the recording studio
You
though.
should.
I am seriously thinking about it. So, but with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Unyielding is, well, it's not done. We'll talk more about it in the coming weeks about the final results, and of course. Immortal on the horizon, those contender matches, this rankings period was extremely important. Who will get into contenders matches? Who will go to Immortal for an opportunity at titles? We find out in a couple of weeks. Ah, wow. All right. With that being said, Maeve, I appreciate you showing up tonight. I'm glad I didn't have to do this by myself.
I'm here to help.
And El Vacant, wherever you are, I hope you're making a lot of money on tacos. And
I reckon he is. He's got one that you ought to try if you go down there. Since he likes to always source something local, he's got one made with andouille sausage that was actually quite good.
Andouille sauce and what?
Andouille sausage. It's a sausage they make around here. It's a little
And,
spicy, very nice.
okay, I'll take your word for it. We'll take your word for it. All right, upcoming dates, just real quick. Uh, we're gonna be in Dublin in just a few weeks for Thanksgiving, for St. Patrick's Day.
A month
Again,
from yesterday.
wow, you even have it down to the day. I'm impressed.
Of course I do. I'm looking forward to going home. I haven't been home
Uh,
since Christmas.
oh my, well, we're all looking forward to it. I know I am. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Any final thoughts, Maeve, before we call it a night?
Well, good luck to Destroyer. And like I said, I'm going to get that scene up to let Kenny know how much money he's not going to win.
Holds up a Reaper is a coward sign. Hmm. Was that a hint? Oh, what? Maybe a hint. Maybe it was. No, Eva wouldn't hold up a sign.
No, Evo would recite a poem.
Yeah, I don't. Interesting. All right. For the lovely Maeve O'Hare, I am Lord Amadeus. I think we'll take us out on the same way we took us out last night. playing your song since you were so kind enough to join me tonight.
Look at you
La-
giving me airtime. Thank you, boss man.
This has been RAWF Unyielding live on the RAWF Radio Network. We will see you all next week and maybe next Saturday night. That title on the line that you actually do have, the After Hours Championship.
I'm looking
Gonna be
forward
fun.
to it.
And remember, folks, if you want to get a shot at the After Hours Championship, you have to be here and be active in the chat. All right. Good night, everybody.
In the town where the shadows breathe, there's a name you won't ever speak. Molly Malone, she walked alone. Her footsteps echo cold as stone. They said she cursed the midnight air with a heart too broken to repair. A wrong soul left in the dust. Now they whisper that's what she gets for trust. She was the ghost they couldn't save. A restless heart, a silent grave. Every word was a fleeting dream. Every prayer a twisted scream. Oh, Molly Malone, where did you go? You left your shadow in the undertow. Your name is a chain, it's all we know. We live with your curse wherever we go. Oh, Molly Malone, you were the flame. Now all we have left is the shame. Your curse is ours, turn with the tide. Forever trapped, no place to hide. Underneath the blood-red moon, they say she hums a mournful tune. Her fingers trace the midnight skies with tears that never fall from her eyes. The town still buried in the past, where her curse was made to last. You can run, but you won't escape. Her whispers haunt the ones who break. She was the voice they couldn't hear, a prayer that drowned in endless fear. Every word like a poison kiss, a love turned cruel in the abyss. Oh, Molly Malone, where did you go? You left your shadow in the undertow. Your name is a chain, it's all we know. We live with your curse wherever we go. Oh, Molly Malone, you were the flame. Now all we have left is the shame. Your curse is ours, turn with the tide. Forever trapped, no place to hide. Oh, Molly, Molly, where's your peace? Did it die when they left you in the streets? And we carry the weight you left behind. A tortured love, a broken mind. Oh, Molly Malone, where did you go? You left your shadow in the undertow. Your name is a chain, it's all we know. We live with your curse wherever